The Friday, January 2nd broadcast of The Bold and the Beautiful does not unfold like a simple continuation of past disputes. Instead, it feels like the moment when everything that has been simmering beneath the surface finally hardens into resolve. Promises are no longer symbolic. Defiance is no longer impulsive. Each character steps into the day carrying a private certainty that retreat is no longer an option, even if moving forward means permanent damage. At the heart of this episode lies a clash not just of fashion empires, but of identity, pride, and long-suppressed resentment most powerfully embodied by Katie Logan Spencer's refusal to be silenced and Brooke Logan Forrester's refusal to concede. For Katie, this moment has been years in the making. Her insistence on keeping her word is not simply about business, ethics, or contractual obligations. It is about reclaiming a voice that has been overshadowed for most of her adult life. Too often, she has been defined as the younger sister, the quieter Logan, the one expected to yield when Brooks fulfills the room. That dynamic has shaped her self-perception for years, teaching her to doubt her own authority even when she was right. But the decision to stand firm now represents a break from that pattern. Katie is no longer willing to absorb blame for mistakes she did not make, nor to apologize for opportunities she lawfully seized. From Brooke's perspective, however, this situation feels nothing short of theft. Ridge and Carter echo that belief, framing the loss of the Logan trademark as a calculated betrayal by Katie and Bill Spencer. Yet beneath their outrage lies an uncomfortable truth that none of them can fully escape. The blame does not belong to Katie. It belongs to Forrester Creations itself. If Logan Designs truly mattered as a pillar of their brand identity, it should have been protected with vigilance. Instead, complacency set in. Deadlines were missed. Renewals were neglected. The name that carried decades of legacy was allowed to expire, not through malice from outsiders, but through internal oversight. That oversight proves catastrophic. When Liam Spencer steps in to secure the Logan trademark, he does not do so through manipulation or deceit. He acts within the bounds of the law, exploiting a window created by Forrester negligence. This reality stings more than any accusation could. Brooke is forced to confront the possibility that her loss is not the result of betrayal by her sister, but of her own company's failure to safeguard what it claims to value. Yet self-reflection has never been Brooke's first instinct in moments of defeat. Pride demands resistance, and Brooke's pride is formidable. The setback represents more than a branding loss. For Brooke, it feels like an erosion of her standing in an industry where perception is everything. The idea that she cannot stop Katie from using the Logan name cuts deeply, but Brooke's strength has always been adaptability. If she cannot win this battle through legal means, she will seek another path. Reputation, after all, is as powerful as any trademark. Brooke understands that public narrative shapes opportunity, and she is uniquely positioned to dominate that narrative. It is easy to imagine Brooke launching a sweeping campaign that reinforces her dual identity as both a Logan and a Forrester, presenting herself as the true bridge between legacy and innovation. In doing so, she reframes the conflict, subtly implying that Katie's claim to the Logan name lacks depth or authenticity. This strategy does not require overt sabotage. It relies on influence, visibility, and the unspoken hierarchy of the fashion world. Brooke's name alone commands attention, and she knows how to leverage it. Time, too, is on Brooke's side. Katie's brand, still in its infancy, requires patience to establish credibility. Every new venture needs space to grow, and Brooke understands that early vulnerability is when competitors are most exposed. This awareness fuels the urgency behind the inevitable strategy meeting between Brooke, Ridge, and Carter. Their gathering is not merely a reaction, it is a recalibration. Together, they represent experience, power, and institutional memory. The question is not whether they will strike back, but how. In that room, conversations will extend beyond surface-level tactics. They will dissect Katie's weaknesses, anticipate her moves, and debate how aggressively they should proceed. Ridge, ever pragmatic, will likely focus on structural advantages, distribution channels, supplier relationships, and market influence. Carter, grappling with the weight of his own past mistake in letting the trademark lapse, will be eager to redeem himself by orchestrating a precise counteroffensive. Brooke, meanwhile, will anchor the discussion emotionally, driven by a conviction that this fight is personal, not just professional. While these plans take shape, Katie stands on the opposite side of the battlefield, fortified by something she has long lacked: certainty. She is tired of being treated as an afterthought, tired of watching her contributions minimized while others claim credit. Her declaration that everyone, including Brooke, will finally hear her roar is not theatrical bravado. It is the articulation of a boundary she should have drawn years ago. For the first time, Katie is not seeking approval. She is demanding recognition. Bill Spencer's support reinforces that resolve. Bill's belief in Katie is not conditional or cautious. It is unapologetic. He does not question her capability or suggest she temper her ambition. Instead, he encourages her to lean into it, to embrace the fight ahead with full awareness of its risks. This backing provides Katie with a stability she has rarely enjoyed: a partner who does not eclipse her, but amplifies her. As Katie pours her energy into building the foundation of her fashion brand, every decision becomes an act of defiance. She is meticulous in assembling her team, choosing individuals who believe in her vision rather than her last name. Each hire, each meeting, each design concept serves as proof that she is not playing at leadership, she is claiming it. Her determination is fueled not by spite, but by a desire to demonstrate competence on her own terms. She wants Brooke to see not as a sister, but as an equal, that she is capable of creating something extraordinary. Parallel to this high-stakes corporate struggle, a quieter yet equally complex emotional thread unfolds at the beach house. Dylan, now safely settled in the guest house instead of her car, experiences a profound shift in her internal world. The simple act of having a door to close, a bed to sleep in, and a sense of continuity eases anxieties she has carried for far too long. Gratitude fills her initially, and she expresses it openly to Will Spencer and Electra Forrester, whose kindness has altered her circumstances in tangible ways. Yet stability introduces its own complications. With fear no longer dominating her thoughts, space opens for other emotions to surface, emotions Dylan has little experience navigating. As she observes Will and Electra in their domestic rhythm, she finds her gaze lingering longer than intended. There is something magnetic about Will's ease, his reliability, the quiet confidence with which he moves through his life. For someone who has existed on the margins, that steadiness feels intoxicating. Dylan recognizes the danger in these feelings almost immediately. She understands that attraction, especially unreciprocated and unspoken, can fracture even the most well-intentioned dynamic. She attempts to suppress it, to remind herself that gratitude should not be confused with desire, that safety does not entitle her to longing. But emotions rarely yield to logic alone. The more she tries to restrain herself, the more aware she becomes of Will's presence, of the small gestures that now feel amplified. The spoilers suggest that Dylan's internal struggle will not resolve easily. Suppression, after all, often intensifies what it seeks to erase. Her challenge lies not in acting on these feelings, but in learning how to coexist with them without allowing them to disrupt the fragile balance that has given her a second chance. Whether she succeeds remains uncertain, but the tension adds another layer to an episode already heavy with consequence. As Friday's episode unfolds, the connective tissue between these storylines becomes increasingly clear. Each character is grappling with control over their future, their identity, their emotions. Brooke refuses to surrender her influence. Katie refuses to be diminished. Liam refuses to accept a passive role in legacy. Dylan struggles to control feelings that threaten her newfound stability. In every case, resistance defines the moment. What makes this chapter of The Bold and the Beautiful so compelling is not the certainty of conflict, but the inevitability of transformation. No one will emerge unchanged. The fashion war will reshape alliances, redefine family bonds, and force long overdue reckonings. For Katie, this is the moment she steps fully into her power, regardless of who stands in opposition. For Brooke, it is a test of whether dominance can survive without introspection. And for Dylan, it is a reminder that even kindness can awaken desires that complicate survival. As the episode draws to a close, one truth becomes unavoidable. This is no longer about a name or a trademark. It is about who gets to define themselves when history, family, and fear all demand obedience. And in that struggle, the loudest roar may not come from the most powerful voice, but from the one that has waited the longest to be heard. Brooke Logan has always believed she understands envy better than anyone else. She has lived with it, inspired it, weaponized it, and survived it. For decades on The Bold and the Beautiful, Brooke has stood at the center of desire and rivalry, convinced that no matter how turbulent her life became, she would always emerge as the woman others measured themselves against. Yet, in this new chapter of her life, something unfamiliar and deeply unsettling begins to surface within her. A jealousy she cannot disguise, cannot rationalize, and cannot silence. It is not the fleeting kind that flares and fades, but the slow-burning realization that for the first time, her younger sister may have achieved something Brooke herself secretly wanted and never received. When Brooke remarried Ridge Forrester, she believed she had reached the summit she had been climbing toward her entire adult life. The wedding felt like vindication. After years of heartbreak, betrayal, and endless competition with other women, Brooke stood once again as Ridge's wife, the woman he chose after every detour and every doubt. In her mind, that choice validated every sacrifice she had made, every humiliation she had endured. She believed marriage itself was the ultimate reward, the proof that she had won. Yet, almost immediately after the celebration faded, an uncomfortable comparison began to gnaw at her. While Brooke returned to her familiar role at Forrester Creations, her sister Katie Spencer stepped into a new marriage that came with something Brooke never received: a company, a future secured not just by love but by tangible power. The question Brooke cannot stop asking herself is deceptively simple and painfully corrosive. Why did Ridge not give her a company when they said "I do"? Why did her marriage come with promises of love and loyalty, but not with the same level of faith and investment that Katie received from her husband? Brooke tries to dismiss the thought as petty, as beneath her, but the question returns again and again, growing louder each time she watches Katie step confidently into her new role. The comparison is unavoidable, and it cuts deeper because it strikes at the core of Brooke's identity. She has always believed she was the visionary, the muse, the indispensable force behind Forrester Creations. And yet, when it came time for someone to truly bet on her future, no one placed their chips on Brooke. This jealousy does not exist in a vacuum. It is layered upon decades of rivalry, resentment, and unresolved competition between Brooke and Katie. Their relationship has never been simple sisterly affection. It has been defined by cycles of closeness and conflict, of support followed by betrayal. 9 times out of 10, their most explosive arguments have revolved around the same two men, Bill Spencer and Ridge. These men have served not only as romantic partners, but as symbols of validation, power, and worth. Loving them has always meant competing for them, and competing for them has meant measuring oneself against the other. The irony is that Brooke has so often emerged as the victor in these battles that she never imagined she would feel this kind of loss. She took Ridge back from Katie in the past, and she did so with the confidence of a woman who believed the outcome was inevitable. Brooke always told herself that Katie's victories were temporary, that sooner or later the balance would shift back in her favor. But this time, the situation is different. This time, Katie's success does not depend on Ridge's wavering affections or Bill's impulsive decisions. It stands on its own, solid and undeniable, backed by a company that exists because someone believed in Katie enough to give her real authority. Looking back to the previous year only intensifies Brooke's internal conflict. There was a moment when both she and Bill were single at the same time, a rare alignment that sparked speculation among fans and characters alike. Whispers of a Brill reunion floated through the air, charged with nostalgia and possibility. Brooke remembers those conversations vividly, remembers how easily they could have slid back into familiar patterns. But she chose a different path. She dismissed the idea, too busy chasing Ridge and Taylor Hayes across the city, to focus on proving that she was the woman Ridge would ultimately choose. At the time, rejecting Bill felt like strength. It felt like clarity. Now, in hindsight, it feels like a missed opportunity she cannot undo. The truth Brooke struggles to admit is that Bill was at his lowest point then. He was spiraling, abandoned emotionally, and Katie had turned away from him. Brooke could have stepped into that space, could have been the one to offer support and understanding. Instead, she mocked the idea of reuniting, convinced that she did not need Bill's devotion to feel secure. Her self-esteem soared when Ridge finally left Taylor and married her again, and in that intoxicating rush of triumph, Brooke became careless. She pushed her sister out of a job, asserting that it was for her own health, while privately reveling in the power she wielded at Forrester Creations. Walking beside Ridge, Brooke felt untouchable. That sense of invincibility did not last. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, Brooke begins to recognize that her power at Forrester Creations is conditional. It is tied to Ridge, to his approval, to his position. Katie's power, by contrast, is independent. It exists because Bill trusted her judgment and capabilities enough to hand her an entire company, not merely a lingerie line or a symbolic title. Bill did not just admire Katie, he invested in her. That distinction haunts Brooke. It forces her to confront a painful possibility, that Bill saw something in Katie he never fully saw in Brooke. For years, Brooke believed she was at the top of the world, the woman every man wanted, the force every company needed. Now, watching Katie build a fashion brand of her own, Brooke feels herself shrinking in comparison. The humiliation is not public, but it is deeply personal. She smiles in public, projects confidence, and continues to play her role as Ridge's wife, but privately she is unraveling. Each success Katie achieves feels like a mirror held up to Brooke's own unfulfilled desires. Brooke begins to question not just her choices, but her judgment. The most disturbing thought of all creeps in during quiet moments she cannot escape. Did she marry the wrong former husband? The question would have seemed absurd to her a year ago. Ridge was always the endgame, the great love, the man she could never truly let go of. Bill was passion and chaos, a storm she survived but did not trust to build a future. And yet, here she is, married to Ridge, but watching another woman receive the kind of faith and backing Brooke herself never received from him. Bill, for all his flaws, believed in Katie so deeply that he entrusted her with an empire. Ridge, despite all his declarations of love, never did the same for Brooke. Brooke cannot help but wonder how differently things might have unfolded if she had known then what she knows now, if she had realized that Bill's admiration could translate into genuine partnership, into a future where she was not just a wife but a leader. Would she have entertained the idea of a Brill reunion more seriously? Would she have chosen differently if she knew a company, a legacy, was on the table? These questions torment her because they challenge the narrative she has told herself for years that love alone was enough, that marrying Ridge was the ultimate prize. As Katie's fashion brand gains momentum, Brooke's internal conflict intensifies. She tells herself that she is happy, that her marriage is solid, that success is not measured in ownership or corporate titles. But these affirmations ring hollow when confronted with reality. Brooke sees the respect Katie commands, the confidence she radiates, and the way Bill stands behind her not as a savior, but as a partner. For the first time, Brooke feels diminished, not by a rival's beauty or charm, but by her autonomy. The tragedy of Brooke Logan's situation is that she has everything she once claimed to want, yet it no longer feels sufficient. Love without leverage begins to feel fragile. Marriage without investment begins to feel uneven. Brooke's envy is not rooted in greed, but in a dawning awareness that she may have settled for emotional fulfillment at the cost of personal empowerment. Watching Katie thrive forces Brooke to confront the possibility that winning Ridge did not mean winning everything. This is the heart of Brooke's crisis. It is not about Ridge alone, nor about Bill alone, nor even about Katie's success. It is about identity. Brooke has always defined herself through her relationships, through the men she loved and the battles she won. Now she is faced with a sister who is redefining herself through independence and vision, and that comparison leaves Brooke exposed in ways she never expected. The jealousy she cannot hide is not shameful because it exists. It is devastating because it reveals a truth Brooke is not ready to face. As the story moves forward, the question is no longer whether Brooke envies Katie. That much is undeniable. The real question is what Brooke will do with that envy. Will she double down on her marriage to Ridge, convincing herself that emotional security is enough? Or will regret begin to fester, leading her to reevaluate the choices she made when pride and certainty blinded her to other possibilities? In the world of the bold and the beautiful, self-reflection rarely comes without consequences. And if Brooke Logan has learned anything over the years, it is that unresolved jealousy has a way of reshaping destinies, often in ways no one sees coming.